If you want to progress in the superyacht industry, you've got to stop playing this game in deckhand mode. Deckhand mode is like easy mode, and it's not going to get you anywhere. Welcome back to Work on a Superyacht, where over the last few months I've been speaking with a great deal of you guys about the Work on a Superyacht Academy. At the beginning, I had a lot of ideas about exactly what it was going to be and what it was going to do, but I wanted to thank you for your time and for your feedback in helping me to boil it down to the core offering, which is mentorship and accountability. Which begs the question, why is that important and why should you care? Well, it all comes down to something that I'm going to call deckhand mode. It's going to prevent you from playing this game in deckhand mode. I've got a lot of experience with deckhand mode, so let me use my own story to help illustrate exactly what it is. I decided to start my yachting career in the summer of 2011. Did a few courses, and then I went to Antibes, and after about 6 weeks and a bit of day work, I got my first job, a seasonal deckhand position on a 50-metre motor sailor. Stayed with them for the summer, and at the end of the contract, I learned that I would never have to worry about finding a deckhand job ever again. And that's because once you got some experience and a good reference, it's really very easy to find another deckhand job. And so there's a little bit of hope for all of you who are currently in France or Italy or Spain, walking the docks, trying to find that first job. Don't worry, stick with it. It will come, and when it does, you'll never have to worry about finding a deckhand job ever again, provided that you do a good job and you get a good reference. Following on from that, I went to a 60-metre motor yacht. I spent 12 months there. Then I went to a 63-metre motor yacht, spent 4 months there, then 12 months on a 93-metre motor yacht, then a couple of months on a 78-metre, and finally another couple of months on a 55-metre. But all the while I was playing in deckhand mode, because despite the fact that throughout that 3-year period I managed to rack up 3 Med seasons, 2 Caribbean seasons, 4 Atlantic crossings, and a Yachtmaster qualification, my first job was a deckhand, my last job was still as a deckhand. No career progression and no meaningful increase in my salary. What's going on there? Now I want to point out that I'm not like some special case. My story is not out of the ordinary. I still see this when I look at CVs today. Someone who's been working in the industry for 2 or 3 years. They've got lots of professional experience, but only ever working as a deckhand. They don't appear to have made any progress with their Officer of the Watch modules, and they don't mention anything about progression with their training record book in their personal profile. They are stuck in what I'm going to call deckhand mode. And deckhand mode is like easy mode. It's fun for a bit, but you're going to lose interest. It's going to become boring because there's no challenge there, and more importantly, there's no reward either. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a deckhand, and if you want to be a deckhand for your entire career, then that's fine. But I don't believe that you do, because I speak to a lot of crew members, and when I do, I ask them a couple of simple questions, something like, where's this all going? What's the dream? And they tell me that they want to be a chief officer, or they want to be a captain, or they quote my soundbite and they say, well, I want to move up the ranks and maximize my potential. But so long as you're playing in deckhand mode, you're not going to move anywhere and you're not going to maximize anything. This is the value of a good mentor. Someone who will hold you accountable to your goals and get you going in the right direction. A good mentor will stop you playing on deckhand mode and they'll shift you into officer mode. That's hard mode. And to be clear, you don't have to be an officer to play the game in officer mode. No, you can play in officer mode from day one. It's about focusing on where it is that you're really trying to get to and doing the hard work to get there. That's what a good mentor can do for you. Broadly speaking, the superyacht industry is not set up for your career progression. The environments that you're going to work in aren't conducive, generally speaking, to your career progression. It's just the way it is. So you have to actively work to stay on the right track, lest you be led down the path of least resistance. That is what a good mentor can do for you. Without a good mentor, you might spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years in deckhand mode until you finally learn the hard way and the long way that the only way to get on in this industry is to go up, which means getting on with your training record book. It means making the time to go and do some of those Officer of the Watch modules. It means using your experience to make more money and climb the ranks and take on some more responsibility. It's about putting your hand up and saying, yes, I'm ready to take on some more responsibility and step up into that lead deckhand position. Support the bosun in the management of these 6 more junior deckhands. It's about taking the responsibility and saying, yes, I'm ready to step up into the role of bosun and manage the entire deck team, work closely with the chief officer to ensure that the exterior of this super yacht is maintained to the highest standard. It's about saying, yes, I'm willing to take the responsibility and the initiative, putting my hand up saying, yes, I will go and get an MCA Master 200 OOW 500 qualification, which, by the way, you don't have to get, but if you do get, will make you far more competent and far more eligible for any one of the first mate positions on yachts under 500 gross tons. And then when you get there, you'll be ready to take the responsibility for running the mini ISM, for running the drills every month, for hiring the deckhands and training them up. This is when things really start to get moving. When you start to see progress, you're stacking that experience. You're leveraging that experience to go up. Now you might be saying, well, that's okay. I can play in deckhand mode for as long as I want. It's a bit of fun. And then when I'm ready, I'll switch gears into officer mode and I'll start working on the more difficult stuff. But not so fast. Let's just go back to my story, if we might, for a little bit, to see how deckhand mode will not only impact your results now, but it can actually infect the whole of your yachting career. It was 2014. I just finished those 3 years as a deckhand, and having seen no progression, no meaningful increase in salary, and not having a vision or a plan for how to move forward, how to move up, I was over it and I was out. I didn't want to work on super yachts as a deckhand anymore. And don't be so sure that that won't happen to you. Don't be so sure that you'll just be able to switch gears when you're ready, because maybe you'll push it so far that you'll just be over it. And then all of a sudden those dreams of chief officer and captain, poof, gone. And before you even get going with that, you'll be over it and you'll be out. So I went back to England with no real plan for what to do next. And I didn't feel good about that, to be honest with you, because I knew that I'd half-assed the yachting thing. I knew I could have done better and pushed it further, but I hadn't. And so that didn't help to propel me into my next job or into my next career. I didn't feel confident to go and do that because I knew that I'd half-assed the yachting career. So what next? Well, I fumbled around for a few years and I did a load of minimum wage jobs, and of course that don't get me very far in London, so I was supplementing my income with those hard-earned savings from my yachting career. That really didn't feel great at all, no direction, a little bit lost, knowing that I could have done better. 3 years passed by, we're now at 2017, and I think, you know what, actually, that yachting thing was actually quite good after all. I'm going to go back to it. Better head on my shoulders, a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I'm going to go back to it, get serious, I'm going to start working towards that Officer of the Watch qualification. But it still took me another 4 years to get that Officer of the Watch qualification. I got it at the end of 2021. Now, to be clear, it should have taken 4 years from the start of my career to get that Officer of the Watch qualification. But even coming back in 2017 as a lead deckhand with the benefit of experience, a yacht master, some sea time to my name already, it still took me 4 years. Why was that? Because those old habits of deckhand mode were still creeping in and stopping me from actually getting on with it and getting it done. And so if we look at my entire career, from when I started in 2011 to when I got that Officer of the Watch qualification, that's 10 years. That's ridiculous. 10 years. If I do say so myself, I am a fairly intelligent, capable person. There is no way it should be taking me 10 years to get an Officer of the Watch qualification. And I would suggest the same is true for you. There's no way it should be taking that long. A year later, up to Chief Mate, that's 2022 now, so that's 11 years to get to Chief Mate. Again, no way it should have taken that long. That should have been 5 years, especially starting in the industry when I did, mid-20s. By the time I was 30, would have had enough life experience, enough strength of character to take on that position. 11 years. And finally, a year later, in 2023, I finally finished in yachting for the second time. So that's a career of 12 years, starting as deckhand and finishing as Chief Mate. And to really drive this point home, I now want to highlight to you in financial terms just how much that cost me. So if I were to go and do it all over again, or if I were going to mentor you to do it, starting as deckhand, I'd spend the first 5 years to get that Chief Mate qualification. Now, depending on who you are, maybe you wouldn't be ready to step up to Chief Mate just then, but at least you'd have the qualification in hand, ready for when you were. And during that time, averaged out across the 5 years, I would say, conservatively speaking, you could earn, on average, €3,500. Averaged out across the 5 years, moving from deckhand to lead deckhand to bosun, Officer of the Watch, Chief Mate. As it was, I did a little different. I went deckhand, lead deckhand, bosun, first mate yacht under 500 gross tons, second officer, large yacht, Chief Mate. We can play around with that depending on what your circumstances are and what your goals are. But broadly speaking, that should be a 5-year period. €3,500 every month, that's €42,000 a year. Across the 5-year period, that's €210,000. Let's, for the sake of argument, take out 30k to cover the cost of courses and time out in between jobs and a little bit of spending money along the track. That leaves you with €180,000. As a UK national, thanks very much, don't pay any tax on that due to the Seafarers Earnings Deduction Scheme. And although you might pay a bit of national insurance, you pretty well get to keep all of that, because when you're on board a yacht, you don't even pay for your toothpaste or your toilet paper. So that is pretty well €180,000 in the back pocket. Thank you very much. So let's compare apples with apples, because from this point, in the next 7 years, we're going to compare with what I did, a full 12-year period. You could go way beyond to master. But let's just say you're going to spend the next 7 years as Chief Mate. Starting off with a salary somewhere in the region of €7,000. And then after 2 years, you can get that Master 3000 qualification. As I said, you might want to step up, but so that we're comparing like with like, let's say you don't, you stay as Chief Mate, but we can at least use that qualification as leverage to increase our salary. And so across that 7-year period, we could average, conservatively speaking, a salary of about €8,500 per month. And I will also add that certainly the last few years of that career will probably be in a rotational position, if that's what you want. It's certainly what I would have wanted. Because by the time you've gone and got that experience and got all of those qualifications, worked on some good yachts, got some good references, you'd be in the market for some of the best Chief Mate jobs going. So, €8,500 a month, that's 102,000 a year. We got 7 years of that. So that comes out at €714,000. Now, let's this time take out 50k for the sake of argument. Again, money for courses, time out between jobs, and a little spending money along the way. That leaves us with €664,000, added to the 180,000 that we had from the first half of our career, for a grand total of €844,000. And even with modest returns in the stock market, that number would probably end up being closer to about $1 million banked. That's a lot of money. Let's forget about stock market returns for a moment and just concentrate on that figure, €844,000. And let's now compare that with my results, having done it the long way, the hard way, having not made the most of the opportunity, having not really maximised my potential. Now, I'm not scared to share this information. I have about €105,000 spread across cash and stocks and shares ISA. And I have about €135,000 equity in a property, for a grand total of €240,000, which is €600,000 short of where I could have been. That's a lot of money. We're not talking about a few quid here. €600,000 for the same time frame, 12 years, starting as deckhand, finishing as chief mate. 600,000. Now you might say, well, you described a perfect scenario. Okay, let's say we don't do it perfect. Let's say we have a bit more time out between jobs. Let's say that we spend a bit more money. Fair enough. Let's take off 25%. Let's go 75% of the 844. That takes us down to €633,000. So I'm still 400k adrift of that. And so I don't really care whether we're talking about 400k or 600k. All we need to know is it's an awful lot of money. That's a huge amount of money to have missed out on. And let me tell you, that stings a little bit, because I could really do with that 400k right now. But no point crying over spilt milk. What's done is done. But I hope this helps you to understand the importance of getting things together early on in your career. Not frittering around for 3, 4, 5 years and then thinking, oh, I should probably get on with that, because maybe you'll never even start. If you remain in deckhand mode for too long, it's going to take you so much longer to get to the ranks of deck officer, and that's if you make it at all. And even if you do make it, when you get there, you're probably going to be a bit burnt out with it. You know it's taken you far too long to get there, and you don't really have the energy and the enthusiasm to jump straight into your deck officer career and really push that to the limit. So on both ends, you've hampered your results. Whereas if you get out of deckhand mode early on into officer mode and you really get going, well, you get that feedback loop, that positive feedback loop going, so you're working hard at it, you're making the right steps along the way, and you're seeing that progression. You're seeing those promotions, you're seeing increase in salary, you're seeing increase in the jobs available to you, the experience available to you. And that's like a snowball just rolling down the hill, down, down, down. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time you get to the ranks of deck officer, that snowball is really quite big and it's rolling really quite fast. And that is just going to push you straight off to absolutely smash your deck officer career and go beyond chief mate to master. And, even if you only do it for 12 years, you can probably do better than €850,000. But let's push that time span out a bit more. 15 years, 20 years. You can do really, really well. But the only way you're going to do it is to switch gears into officer mode and get on with this thing. So I don't care where you're at, how long you've been doing this as a career, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. If you're in deckhand mode, please get yourself a mentor, get someone with first-hand experience of this thing who's going to be able to point you in the right direction and hold you accountable. It doesn't have to be me as part of the work in the Superyacht Academy. It could be a captain or a chief officer that you've worked with before. As long as they're willing to give you their time and their energy, they're willing to take you under their wing and steer you in the right direction, that's all you need. But please, get yourself a mentor. Work on a super yacht, move up through the ranks and maximize your potential. That's what I've been saying from the start. Nothing's changed. And I hope you see there's a reason why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because I didn't do that. And it's cost me an awful lot of time and money. And I don't want the same for you. You can do better than that. And it is going to be a bit harder, but it's not beyond your capabilities to do this. We're not talking about rocket science here. Officer of the watch, chief mate, the steps that you need to take to get there, filling out that training record book, doing those OOW modules, they ain't going to push you too much. Not really, not in the grand scheme of things. This is not beyond your capability. At the beginning, it might seem like it's quite overwhelming and so much is going on, but really there isn't. You just need to take a bit more time with it. And when everyone clocks off at 5, maybe you'll just go and work on a little project of your own, just for an hour or so. That's all you need. Maybe you'll just take half an hour to get a few tasks signed off in your training record book. The chief officer isn't going to be mad at you for coming to them and saying, hey, we did this today. We launched the rescue tender. I cleared it away from the sides. Could you sign it off for me, please? They're going to be very happy that you come and do that. And if they don't have time then, they'll say, sorry, don't have time now. Please come back tomorrow. And you'll come back tomorrow. Get them to sign that task, probably plus another one. None of this is difficult stuff. And it's not about information and, how-tos and stuff. It's just about doing it. You need someone to keep you on track and you need to do it. I'm still putting the finishing touches to the work on Superyacht Academy, but the mentorship and accountability aspects of it are ready to go, ready and waiting for you. So if this has resonated with you, please do consider heading down to the description below. There's a link there. You can book a call with me. But do remember that this is for people who are ready and who are serious about making an investment in their career, making an investment in their future. If, at the moment, you are unable or not ready or unwilling to do that, please consider holding off on booking that call. Have a think about it, and when you're ready, then please do book that call. And later on, you'll be glad that you are maybe at least €500,000 better off. Thank you so much for watching. I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one.